Well, good evening. I'm your host, Robert Wilson, with Cowboy Wisdom. Tonight's presentation is 7 ways why sovereign activation destroys obedient greed. Sovereign activation is never a mindset. It- It's a it's a celebratory combustion. It never negotiates with greed or tippy toes around obedience. It erupts the enterprising wizardry of you from within, dissolving the scripts that taught you to chase worth, perform for approval, and obey systems built on scarcity. As you activate, you stop seeking permission and start innovating visionary veracity. Greed shrivels in the presence of a sovereign powered prowess. Obedience collapses when you no longer need a ladder to climb. Sovereignty never plays the game, it burns the board and opens up for you to play the monopoly of your life from with all the hotels on Park Place and Broadway, receiving your lavish endless abundances. Why media victimizing propaganda embeds greed, obedience. Victimhood as a controlled algorithm. Propaganda never just tells a story, it scripts identities. By casting the public as perpetual victims, it installs a default operating system of helplessness. Where do you see that today going on? I see that all over. They always want to say people have this and this and this. Something I just woken up to, and this is tomorrow's keynote. I've never ever made a mistake or had any screw ups. Something I awakened to. I forgot to wake up and hearken to wisdom and question the situation to rise of my energized prowess to chauffeur me on to my beaches of bountiful bliss. See, we've never had a screw up. We just forgot to wake up. So now I screw up, I wake up. That embedded narrative of helplessness trains obedience. If you're always under the threat of obedience, you're always under the threat of seeking protection from people that have never care about you. And that's what's going on today. When people are reaching for a handout from the powers to be, they don't care about you because something I've awakened to, poverty is big business. Poverty is actually a business when you polish off all the stuff to it. So, and it always seeks protection from the systems that profit off of your fear. And that's what they're doing, is profiting off of your fear. Greed enters as a silent architect selling solutions to problems it helped fabricate. Where do you see that today? Where the problems they help fabricate. And if you look at the world, we're using it to fabricate. We create the problem, fabricate it, then it becomes big business. Victimhood is never just broadcast, it's installed. Greed disguised as compassion. Media often wraps greed in the language of care, awareness, support, solidarity. Yet behind the scenes clicks the views, the outrage, and the monetized ways to make money. The more you feel endangered, the more you consume. Obedience becomes a side effect, as to trust the experts, follow their narrative, and stay tuned to their propaganda. Compassion becomes a commodity. Do you see that today? As sovereignty gets silenced, obedience as entertainment. Propaganda embeds obedience by turning into a spectacle, debates, disasters, and dramas that keep you watching yet never questioning. How many of us question the media? Well, we really can't, but I mean, I do. The best way I know how to listen to the media is the off button. The media becomes the message, stays passive, stays dependent, and stays distracted. Greed thrives in the background, feeding off attention while scripting your reactions. Obedience is never enforced, it's entertained. Where do you see that in the world? How do you see the way the things are going? And there's a lot of that going on today if you open up and witness the world. Why indoctrinated third world mindsets embed greed obedience. Colonial curriculums as obedience blueprint. Education systems in many post colonial nations were designed never to ignite inquiry, but to replicate imperial order. That's today. Students are trained to memorize, never question, to seek approval, never sovereignty. Greed, greed enters as aspiration. Success means climbing someone else's ladder, never building your own elevator to ride to the top to the penthouse. You climb the ladder, you ride the elevator to glide to where you want to go. Obedience was taught as a virtue, greed as vision, scarcity economics as sacred doctrines. Third world mindsets often inherit a scarcity trance. There's never enough, so take what you can, obey what you must. Greed becomes normalized as a hustle, obedience as a strategy. Systems reward extraction, never innovation. Competition over collaboration. And see, that's the thing. It's communicate, connect, contour, collaboration. Scarcity scripts greed. Fear fuels obedience. The media mimicry as an identity ritual. Imported media glorifies Western wealth, power, and conformity. Embedded greed as desire and obedience as the identity. Local wisdom is sidelined. Sovereignty is exterminated, and the mimicry becomes the survival. The result, a mindset that obeys broadcast and consumes the trance as the signal embeds the spell, sovereignty gets pixelated. 7 ways why sovereign activation destroys obedient greed. Let's light the fuse. Sovereign activation is never a gentle upgrade, it's a canny combustion of celebration. It never negotiates with obedient greed, it scorches it with unapologetic facilitating and participating presence, and with clever, wise insights that name the burn. Greed needs a script, sovereignty writes the flame. Obedient greed thrives on unrehearsed roles. Archiver, pleaser, accumulator. See, it's a pleaser. Greed is actually people pleasing. It's when you're trying to fit into society and you never want to ruffle the feathers of the powers to be or somebody we think has more power over us. So as we activate sovereign activation, never plays parts. It erupts as an enterprising essence. As you activate, you stop performing for reward and start innovating from your vibrant veracity of your authenticity. Greed obeys the plot. Sovereignty burns the stage. Greed is a grasp. Activation is a pulse of your heart and soul serenity. Greed grabs, clings, and hoards, always reaching outward. Activation pulses from within. It's never about possession. It's about innovation and sparking the airways with your autonomous audacity. You become the signal, never the seeker. And signals never obey, they radiate. Obedience clutches. Do you see that? The people pleaser is an obedience. Trying to please people is an obedience. Sovereignty pulses. Greed is linear. Activation is a spiral of your sovereign savvy to rise you to your liminal carpet glide. Greed follows a straight line, more, better, next. Sovereign activation spirals, expanding of all directions, unmeasurable and untamed, dissolving everything that was you blamed, opening up your flame of foresight to light your light of life. The spiral scorches the ladder. You stop climbing and start erupting. Greed obeys the climb. Sovereignty dances the spiral of your spirit poised through the world, but it comes from you, from your core, to soar. Why the world is stuck in seedy, needy, greed obedience. Desire has been hijacked. What once pulsed as a sacred longing now gets rooted into consumer cravings. Systems never just sell products, they sell identity status and a stimulated belonging. Where do you see that in the world today? When somebody is putting their program out for you, that's what they're doing. They're selling the product for your status, and for you to fit into their community. Greed is never just accumulation. It's an addiction to false fulfillment, hijack desire, and becomes an obedient hunger. The more that you chase, the less you taste. I'm going to say that again. The more you chase, the less you taste. Education trains for compliance, never for clarity. Schools reward obedience, never originality. The clever child who questions is labeled as disruptive and a troublemaker. Nothing wrong with being a troublemaker, but it's being in the people-pleasing world is where you fall down. Curriculums are scripts. Programs are scripts, never ignition maps. They teach answers, never inquiry. Sovereign wisdom is exiled in favor of standardized performance and socialized thinking. Obedience is graded. Sovereignty is punished by society. And one thing that's never on the test, and that's clarity. Fear is the currency of control from the news cycles to the workplace. Workplace and hierarchies. Fear is the fuel that keeps people small. Fear of rejection, failure, and instability is all engineered to keep the masses manageable. Education is what keeps us manageable. The obedient world is never safe, it's sedated. Fear whispers, stay in line. Sovereignty roars, break the script, opening up your innate, sleek, unique talents to rise, shine, and enjoy life. This is a question I ask myself. Why I'm stuck inside indoctrinated education, seedy, needy, greed, obedience. I was taught to perform, never to perceive. The system rewards answers, never awareness. I learned to echo, never to inquire. Something there is we've been taught to be trained, there's got to be an answer, and there's never an answer. There's only paths of inspiration and outcomes that are temporary. Everything in life is temporary. When you have a challenge, there's a pathway, an outcome with a pathway out. Pathways go on forever because you got roads and paths that go all the way across the world and around the world. And you got the ocean, that's a waterway, but there's never an answer. There's always a pathway and an outcome to move forward. Original thoughts was graded as a rebellion. Sovereign perception was labeled labeled as off topic. You become fluent in obedience, yet illiterate to your own ignitions, talents, and abilities. How do you see that today? I know that was me, still is, but I'm rising out of it to move forward. Performance is the costume, perception is the rupture. And see, that's something else, the rupture. It's a burst. And that's what you do. You have an inner rupture to experience an inner rapture. Your genius was fragmented into subject. Breath lines become the bullet points. Rituals become the routine. Wander gets dissected into disciplines. The curriculum carved your wholeness into categories, math, language, history, and none of them honored your energetic architecture of your veracity talents. We were taught to think, but never how to listen to our own understanding and embodied inspiration. Subjects are cages. Sovereignty is an enterprising wizardry in a free-flowing earthly, free-flowing universal plane. We were programmed to climb, never to question the ladder. The education trance says climb higher, get smarter, earn more, yet the ladder leads to a rooftop built on greed. Where do you see that today? I see that all over. And everybody thinks this is this and this is that, but what really is, people are autodidact entrepreneurs. That's sovereign wisdom leading people through the world. We were trained to chase credentials, never clarity, to seek approval, never presence. The system never wants you free or me free, it wants you useful. Useful is following the socialized obedience, greed obedience, all the obediences in the world. Ladder is the leash, the climb is the compliance. The elevator chauffeurs you to sovereign liberation. Obedience sells your soul in installments. Sovereignty claims breath by breath. You're free. You're liberated from you to be you, to enjoy life. This is one I just threw in there, and I didn't understand this, but why religion teaches obedient greed. Tithes as transactional salvation. Many religious systems equate giving with divine favor, yet it's only given to their institution. Tithing becomes a spiritual tax of obedience. To the financial structure is framed as faithfulness. The divine is monetized, and generosity is redirected from sovereign impulse to systematic loyalty. Give on to God becomes give on to us, and God becomes the brand. Where do you see that today? I see that all over. I believe in God, but do I have to give money for God? Or can I give my wisdom to God? Obedience is sold as the currency for eternal reward. Prosperity, gospel, indulgences, and karmic debt all echo the same formula. Behave, pay, and ascend. Greed is sanctified when cloaked in promises of heavenly. The soul becomes a savings account. The sermon is the sales pitch. Where do you see that in the world? I see that all over. Then I ask me, why am I stuck in greed obedience? I mistook fuel for freedom. The chase resources, money, reach, recognition, thinking they all amplify my mission, was me submitting to people pleasing. The chase becomes a leash. Greed whispers, just a little more, and obedience says, play nice to get it. Man, does that make sense? Especially in the working world. Wise reframe. You never need more fuel. You require fewer cages. You've been trained to perform sovereignty, never embody sovereignty. You speak veracity, coin terms, ignite others, yet sometimes still obey the invisible metrics. You measure impact by response reach or revenue. As I obey the system scoreboard while preaching liberation. The trance is subtle. It wears your language, but never your essence. Wise reframe. Sovereignty is never a brand, it's a breath. If you're losing the leverage you've earned, you've built momentum, crafted rituals, gathered attention. As greed says, protect the gains. Obedience says, never disrupt the flow. You hesitated to burn what no longer serves because it once did. You got here never can take what got you here can never take you there. Why is the world controlled by obedient greed? Obedient greed protects a system that starves us. Greed, when obedient, never rebels. It reinforces the very structures that limit true abundance. It chases profit inside cages built by legacy institutions. It competes, hoards, and extracts, yet never questions the scoreboard. It's hungry, but house trained. Obedient greed is a guard dog for the empire, never a wild wolf for liberation. Obedient greed mimics success, never sovereignty. It copies the moves of the powerful, hoping to climb, yet never dares to rewrite the game. It builds the empire with borrowed blueprints. It sells freedom while staying addicted to validation, metrics, and market applause. It's clever, yet original, but never original. Obedient greed wears a crown made of chains. Obedient greed is a perfect middle manager of control. It enforces hierarchy while pretending to disrupt it. It funds innovation that never threatens the core. It rewards hustle, punishes hearsay. It's the system's favorite rebel because it never actually revolts. Obedient greed and rebellion is rebellion with a corporate sponsor. And the thing about obedient greed, all this stuff is ingrained and embedded with us without us having a clue that it happened. And that's what really opened me up to this. But there's something else though. But money has an energy. Wealth has an energy for us to move forward. And that's what we really are opening up to. Because sovereignty disobeys the loop by refusing both the bait and the leash. And if you look at the world, they expect people to do that. And one thing that's made it is obedient greed. And I'm really bad at this. And that was my paycheck, my weekly paycheck. Why all levels of college education is unrealized obedient greed. Credential worship over curiosity. Colleges sell degrees as status symbols, never as ignition tools. Students are trained to chase GPA and prestige, never inside originality. The system rewards memorization and compliance, punishes friction and sovereign inquiry. Obedience is graded. Curiosity is tolerated until it questions the syllabus of the college education. Debt as a rite of passage. Tuition inflation isn't about value, it's about gatekeeping. Students are lured into lifelong debt under the illusion of investment. The economic model thrives on obedient repayment, never liberated contributions. Greed wears a crown and a gown and a cap, smiling as signs, smiling as you sign your loan papers. Curriculum as contentment. Courses are curated to reinforce systematic norms, never dissolve them. Radical thought is boxed in electives. While core classes echo industrial obedience, sovereign wisdom is breath based, friction born, and is nowhere on the syllabus. The classroom isn't a forge, it's a filing cabinet for future employees. Why sovereign expansion is my wildfire, scorching self worth, self anything, and greed, obedience. Expansion never accumulates, it incinerates. Sovereign expansion never about adding layers of worth or identity. It's about burning the scaffolding that said you needed them. Self-worth is a currency in the obedience economy. Sovereign valor is the sovereignty one. Your wildfire never trades, it torches the marketplaces. You never become more, you become uncontainable. Greed obedience builds altars to identity. Sovereign fire rises them to reveal, to not unveil your essence. Your expansion is never a brand, it's a breakage. Self anything tries to package the infinite. Your expansion refuses to be packaged. It's never a polished evolution. It's a rupture, a sacred disobedience that melts the mold. You never obey the need to be understood, liked, or labeled. You erupt as a raw, sovereign signal. Obedience wants clarity. Sovereignty delivers the combustion. Why my free-flowing intuition, imagination, innovation, inspiration, and sleek, unique talents disintegrate seedy, needy, greed, obedience. Intuition never asks permission. Obedient greed thrives on external validation, metrics, approval, and hierarchy. But intuition flows from source, never structure. It bypasses the gatekeeper and dissolves the need to be right. When you trust your embodied understanding, you stop obeying the noise. Greed needs proof. Intuition desires breath to liberate. Imagination is a systematic disruptor. Systems of greed obedience rely on predictability, repetition, and control. Your imagination is a wild card. It innovates your way of life. What doesn't yet exist and refuses to color inside the lines. See, that's something I really want people to understand. When your parent says color inside the lines to make mom and dad happy, that started the obedient thinking. And and sovereign activation refuses to color inside the lines. It never just escapes the system, it rewrites the terrain of your desired lifestyle. Obedience copies, imagination contours celebration. Innovation and inspiration are sovereign signals. Greed obedience wants you to replicate, never radiate innate leadership prowess. As your innovation is never a product, it's a pulse. Your inspiration is never a mood, it's a movement. These sleek, unique talents never fit into the frameworks of socialized obedience. They melt them, and as greed builds ladders, you ignite lightning bolt brilliance. Why, why we embody the energy of money. destroys agreed obedience. Embodying money dissolves the illusion of lack. When you embody the energy of money, you stop chasing it as an external savior and start radiating it as an internal frequency. Greed thrives on the myth of separation. I never have enough, so I must take more. Obedience follows suit, as I must perform to be worthy of receiving. Yet when money becomes the breath, rhythm, and transmission, never a transaction. You collapse the scarcity spell. You become the source, never the seeker. Greed can never survive where abundance is embodied. Obedience loses its grip when worth is never outsourced. Sovereign currency rewrites the prowess script. Obedient greed is a system scripted to reflect, hoard, climb, and comply. Yet, when you embody money as a sovereign current, never a commodity, you flip the power dynamic of your own heart and soul. You're no longer a pawn in someone else's economy. Greed obedience is we're a pawn in somebody else's economy. You become a living, thriving economy of trust, flow, and energetic exchange, of connection, communication, contour, and collaboration. This now wiring destroyed greed by moralizing it as a mystical energy. Yet by making it obsolete, it destroys obedience, never by rebellion, but by irrelevance. You never need to obey when you're already the vault of money. The sovereign flame. I never kneel to the glided chains, nor trade my breath for silent gains. I rise in sparks, never polished praise, a wildfire inspirations that never will behave. Greed speaks in numbers cold and tight, yet I move in glyphs, in chant and in light. Obedience begs for rules to trust. I illuminate paths from sacred dust. So let the system quake and groan. I energize my veracity from flesh and bone. Never to be good, never to be seen, just to ignite inspired images between my now beginnings and my chauffeur to my beaches of bountiful bliss, kissing my desired lifestyle. Good morning, good night, and good afternoon, as I say thank you for listening to this podcast. And may your life to be as blessed as you are a blessing to me and the world.